Queen of marketing at Ferris Machinery is Debbie Kaufman. But if you ever need to find out how to market and how to do stuff and how to have fun, you have to see Debbie.
Yes, definitely. Pelham and I had a few dances at the fundraiser. Okay. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of education." And for me, that helps explain the sad, violent events and hate-filled rhetoric in our neighborhoods and the world lately. Because we don't know if these people are intelligent. They may or may not be. But we can know that in their homes and schools, they were not taught character. Their hearts were not taught love and tolerance and peace. We can know that they were not taught to ask the 4 questions of Rotary. In my family, education was a strong value, but we always knew it was even more important to have character, to be a mensch. Malala Yousafzai, whose father is a Rotarian, said, "If you want to end the war, send books. Instead of sending tanks, send pens. Instead of sending soldiers, send teachers." Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Very inspirational. Please go through the line, enjoy your lunch, and we'll reconvene shortly. And I found a victim whose arm I twisted, and he said, "Uncle," and now he is our willing new secretary. So Brian Geis has already been in this role, and Brian is the man that if you need a car, whether used or new, is the expert and can get you a terrific deal on a car. So Brian Geis, welcome, and I'm looking forward to your service.
Thank you, President Andre. A few announcements. We've got some guests. Well, announcements first. Don't forget to make your reservations for Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at the Denver Center for Performing Arts on Friday evening, February 26th. Reservations are now open at DAC database, DACDB, but will close on December 31st, so make your reservations now. Reservations are now open at DACDB for our annual Rotary Family Holiday Party on December 17th. The reservation deadline is Friday, December 10th. Save the date, Rotary President's Dinner and Polio Plus fundraiser with RI President Ravi Ravduran. I'm going to get that close. On Saturday evening, January 9th. This will be in lieu of our club meeting on January 7th. Senator Alan Simpson will speak to our club on Tuesday, January 12th, in lieu of our Thursday meeting on the 14th, the very same week. More information will follow. Reservations are required on both these events, so make sure and follow up when the announcements come out. Because of special meetings in January, we will not be having our annual luncheon at the National Western Stock Show. However, it's our hope to invite fellow member and National Western Stock Show CEO Paul Andrews to speak to our club in the coming months, provide us with an update with all the things that are going on with the National Western. There's a saying, opportunity only knocks once. Here's proof that that's not true. At the club party, an auction item came up and a second one has been offered. So we can speed it up because the price has already been set by the auction. So there's an extra auction item that's a dinner at the Chop House, 4-4, with Reggie Rivers, ex-Bronco and commentator. He's a nice guy, fun, should be a great evening. The high bid on that was $1,500. This second one is being offered for the same thing. Either yell out right now or see Valerie. She can help you with that. Yeah, we got birthdays up. Birthitarians that are here this week, would you please stand up and be recognized? Birthday people, who's here to? Elle, happy birthday. Wills, happy birthday. Prospective new members, we have a lot today. This is great. So grab somebody and say hello and tell them why they should be in this club. If you'd all stand up and then we could recognize you. Elizabeth Bueller is a guest of Lanny Langton. Matt Douglas is here with Rich Harris. Robert Sullivan is here with Chris Peters, and Joe Cho is here with Chris Peters also. Chad Adams from USB is an Alaska Rotarian, lives here now, so we should welcome him to the club. Alfredo Payol is here with Sandeep. Please stand up so we can recognize you. Sean Hagerman is a guest of Mark Donovan, and Doug Plott is here visiting to hear our speaker. Welcome. Couple of guests. Carl Tinsman is here to give us an update on polio, and Kelsey Green is Jack Green's daughter, here visiting. Welcome. We also have a visiting Rotarian. Ryan Small is here from the Skyline Club in Houston. Ryan, where are you at? It's on the list. Welcome. Andrea, I think that's it. Have a good week.
Thank you, Brian. You know, little Johnny was sitting at his desk, and he was writing his letter to Santa, and he starts, "Dear Santa, I really have been a terrific kid this year." And he thinks about it, says, "Nah, Santa's going to know that I was a rotten kid." And he throws it away. He says, "Well, what am I going to do?" So he runs into his mother's room and reaches on top of her credenza and grabs a little statue of the Virgin Mary, runs into his mother's closet, grabs a shoebox, throws the shoes out, takes the Virgin, wraps her up in the tissue paper, closes the box, and puts the box under the bed. And then starts a new letter. It says, "Dear Jesus, if you ever want to see your mother again." So little Johnny is very smart. And people with mental illness are also many times very smart. But they have great difficulty existing and functioning in our world. We have embraced that as one of our Rotary initiatives. And to talk to us a little bit about our State of the State luncheon, let's welcome Chuck Everill.
2 minutes. Basically, the reminder, it's December 10th, State of the State event at the Hyatt Regency at the Tech Center. Luncheon starts at noon and runs to 1:30. But again, this is a come early, stay late type of event. We have a unique opportunity. There are 30 mental health organizations that have signed on to be part of an expo, a Rotary Mental Health Expo, just for Rotary. And for the hour before the luncheon, from 11 to 12, or the hour after the luncheon, from 1:30 to 2:30, there'll be 30 booths there, where also the Rotary Mental Health Initiative has a booth, and some of the individual clubs that have projects like the Boulder Valley Club. So it should be a really special event. Governor Hickenlooper, I think we have a high probability this year of him coming, better than most. You never are certain because of the last-minute nature of the governor's schedule. We have a fabulous speaker, a woman named Catherine Switz. And I handed out last week from the Wall Street Journal a quick blurb on her. And it sounds at first like, oh my gosh, a little bit heavy. But while at the Harvard Business School, Catherine had a major psychotic event, first in her life. Depression, bipolar, on the street. And yet this is a woman who's going to tell a story about recovery and give us some insights into what is the reasons for optimism about mental health. So I think you'll find it an exceptional experience. She went on to work at McKinsey, General Electric, and now she's a fellow at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So she knows Rotary extremely well, and she's also excited about the power of Rotary to help this effort. She founded something called the Stability Network, which is now, when I first met her, it was 12 people. It's now 50 high-performing people with major mental illnesses who are willing to speak about this experience and this disease. So, last thing, buy your tickets today. This is the last day to buy it, and it expires at midnight. I think you'll find it worth your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. So, was one of the things that we're truly proud in the world as Rotarians is polio and our eradication of polio. But we still have work ahead of us. It's still in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. But we have a local expert. Nobody in Colorado knows polio better than Carl Tinsman. Carl is a Rotarian in Boulder, but he was the UN delegate on polio in Geneva and has lived in several countries dedicating his life to the eradication of polio. So let's please welcome Carl Tinsman to talk to us about polio.
Thank you very much, President Andre. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, although coming from the Boulder Rotary Club, it's always a daunting experience for us to come to this, the very first club in Colorado. So, but I'm very pleased to be back here. I want to share 2 things with you this afternoon. First, I want to give you an update from the front lines of polio eradication in Pakistan, where I've spent the last month. And second, and I'm going to do the second one first, I want to talk about the Rotary International President's Dinner on the 9th of January. President Andre and myself and other colleagues had the opportunity to meet Ravi Ravindran in Sao Paulo several months ago at the Rotary International Convention. And I can tell you that Ravi is inspirational, he is a gentleman, he is a manager, and he is somebody that is going to change Rotary. And therefore, the opportunity to hear him speak on the 9th of January, right here in Denver at the Marriott South, is one not to be missed. It's going to be one of the 2 or 3 most important events of the district this year. I have a number of flyers. I will leave them up here. You can pick them up after the lunch. A second reason to attend this luncheon, in addition to meeting and listening to Ravi, is that the proceeds from the luncheon are going to go to the End Polio Now campaign. So we're going to, and that's very important in terms of our budget shortfall, which is about $500 million for the next 3 years. And finally, another reason is that, and this you need to tell your husbands, or tell your wives, or your significant others, the Marriott is offering a very special deal of a $99 rate that night. So you can go there and have a good time as well and stay overnight. So I encourage you to attend the President's Dinner, 9th of January. You can sign up for tables for a mere $650 for a table of 10. Now, let me move on to the polio update in 90 seconds. Rotary began the effort to eradicate polio from the world back in 1985. Most of you know that. And we have stuck with it for the last 30 years, even when we thought it would be over much earlier. So where are we today? We are 99% of the way there. We only have 2 countries in the world today that still are endemic with wild polio virus. And in those countries, the numbers of cases are way, way down. In 2015, those 2 countries are Pakistan and Afghanistan, by the way. In 2015, we've had a total of 60 cases from those 2 countries. Compare that with 2014, when we had 316 cases from 9 countries. So we are this close. We are very close indeed, but we have a lot of challenges in front of us. Pakistan is not always a very friendly place for polio eradicators. They get killed. 17-year-old schoolgirls get shot dead for administering polio vaccine. In spite of that, the effort persists and the effort is winning in Pakistan. The leadership of the polio effort is fantastic. I've been working with them, as I said, last month for about 5 weeks. Leadership is from the government side. The partners are supporting it. We are going to finish polio in Pakistan in the next 6 months. I guarantee it. In Afghanistan, the problems are different and the problems are more severe. They're related to security. And the fact that we now have not just Al-Qaeda, we have Daesh, or what you folks would know as ISIL and ISIS, in Afghanistan on the border with Pakistan. And this is going to interrupt our efforts and make it even more challenging. My time is up. Those of you that want to talk more about polio, I'll be around after lunch. I'll be pleased to do it. Pick up brochures up here in the front. I'll leave them on the stage for the President's dinner on the 9th of January. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and joining us. Can you imagine the courage and conviction that it takes to be a 17-year-old girl and go out there and vaccinate these kids, even when you know that your life may be at risk? And all we have to do is open our wallets and write a check to help the effort. But speaking of writing checks, why don't we get over here Mr. Don Lewis, who is the chair of the Rotary Foundation. No, not the chair. What is your title?
That would be great. I could move to Chicago.
Yes.
I could be the big wig in Chicago and come in. I'm the mere floor sweep of the Rotary Foundation Support Committee at this stage. Thank you. But before we begin about writing checks, I have a friend of mine here. I'd like to introduce you to Reverend No. Reverend?
Good to be here at Denver Rotary. You know, we have this contest going with Boulder. And it's going to be really embarrassing if Boulder wins. You know, I could see if Las Vegas won. But if Boulder wins, what's next? Will it be Paonia? You know, I know there are a lot of worthy causes, but one of the most worthy causes is giving to the Rotary International Foundation. And I'm pleased to announce today that if we win, if the Denver Rotary wins this contest with Boulder, I'm going to have my friend Karnak come to Denver and speak to the Denver Rotary Club. And you know Karnak the Magnificent. All you people over 40 remember Karnak the Magnificent and Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. Well, Karnak the Magnificent, he could answer questions even before you knew what the question was you were going to ask.
Whoa.
And do you know what, if Boulder wins, do you know what Denver Rotary is going to get?
No, what, sir?
A 100-pound lump of coal. That's what we're going to get. So get those cards and checks coming in.
Thank you, Reverend. The other thing we're trying to do in this competition is broaden your choices for giving to the Rotary Foundation and try to correspond your passion with where you would like to give to the Rotary Foundation. So we have several choices. We have the traditional favorite, my personal favorite, the annual fund share that guarantees money coming back to our district to be used in our district. We have Polio Plus, which is also a traditional favorite. And we've also added 6 more areas that you can donate to the annual fund, and they're listed up there. They're the 6 areas of focus of the Rotary Foundation. So if you have a passion for providing clean water, simply write your check for $100 to the Rotary Foundation and make a note, provide clean water, and we'll see to it that that money goes to that particular area of the Rotary Foundation. So, you've got an opportunity, additional opportunities for passionate giving to the areas that you're truly passionate about in Rotary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Don. What a great opportunity to be able to give and do something good. the president of the Boulder Rotary Club was silly enough to challenge his club that if they lose, he's going to run the meeting in his Speedos. So let's give him the opportunity, all right? Let's make that happen for him. I would love to see him running the meeting in a Speedo. All right. So now, for a new member introduction, Denver Center for International Studies. What a vision. What a great school. Dan Lutz is the visionary behind that, and he is here today to introduce a brand new member. Dan?
Thank you, President Andre. It's my privilege to introduce our newest member, Mark Montgomery. And this is actually serendipitous today because of our speaker who is, you will be introduced to just shortly. But I first got to know Mark a while ago when we worked together on a project. He was the director of Center for Teaching International Relations at the Graduate School for International Studies at DU, which is now Corbell School, Graduate School for International Studies. And we were working on a proposal together for a national association for international studies schools and programs, which then he took brilliantly from there, and it became an association that sponsored some incredible conferences, national conferences too. And but Mark has done a lot since then, and actually a lot before then too. Right now he is he helps young people both here in the United States and people from primarily East Asia and Latin America to find their way into American colleges and universities. He's got his own consulting practice, and he's also started his own business that does that. But he has experience around the world. He taught for 3 years as a professor in Hong Kong, and he started as a French teacher in high school. So I'm happy to introduce Mark. Mark, you want to just say just a few words?
Thanks very much, and I appreciate the warm welcome I've received in previous weeks to Rotary. It's a place that's, I've had this on my radar screen for a long time, and feel that I'm in a place both professionally and personally that I can contribute not only to my local community. I am a Denver native and pleased to be a part of this particular club, but to take my interests in education and in development around the world and to focus those efforts through Rotary. So I'm excited, and thank you very much for welcoming me.
Mark, welcome to the club. And we have here a folder with a lot of information about Rotary and your pin that we hope you will wear with a lot of pride and represent the club well in our community. Welcome to our club. Looking forward to your contributions. Thank you, Dan. There is a man that epitomizes humility, is the model of integrity, and when he walks into the room, raises the IQ just by himself. Let's please welcome to introduce our speaker, Mr. Vednanda.
Andre, you're so kind. President Andre, my esteemed colleagues, the speaker today comes to us with an illustrious career. President of Swarthmore, President of Colgate University, Dean at Yale Divinity School, PhD from Chicago, University of Chicago, Vice President, and one of the most illustrious academic thing that you see in any university, provost at Emory University. But more than that, even she is our neighbor, brought up, reared in Kansas, outdoors woman, likes Colorado, has been here often, and people who work with her keep telling me all the time that she is warm, She is most efficient, she is a visionary, and she is at the same time most inspirational and a mentor. My privilege to give you our own speaker today and kindly, warmly welcome her, Rebecca Chop.
Thank you, Ved. It sounds like Ved is a legend at Rotary in the same way he is at DU. A truly magnificent man. Great honor to know him. I want to talk to you today a little bit about the opportunities and the challenges we face in education. I'm trying to figure out this system, so bear with me. Okay, let's see if it works. There we go. Whenever society goes through massive change, a democratic society like America, you can expect that higher education will undergo also change. We've seen it when the veterans came back in World War II. We saw it in the waves of immigrants in the 1915, 1925 period. We saw it in the 1960s, and we're seeing it now. I believe that not since the 1860s, when many of the schools in America were founded, including DU, have we seen such radical transformation. What occurred in the 1860s? Industrialization began to hit democratic society, and every process changed. How we thought about life changed, and those changes impacted higher ed. So today I want to begin by just outlining a few of the changes very quickly. I can't even get into the number of changes that really are impacting how we think about higher education. But the first, the one on all of our minds, almost always, is the cost of education, the value proposition. Okay. In the last 35 years, higher education, inflation-adjusted tuition has increased in private universities like DU by 281%. In publics by 368%. Now you're going to ask immediately, and we want to know why. There are lots of simple reasons. It is not inflated faculty salaries. It's not expanding the number of faculty. It's not even having people like me in abundance. We actually don't have all that many administrative staff. There are two main reasons. One, in privates, it's because about 25 years ago we started to give massive amounts of financial aid. We did that so we could bring in people of different races and people of different classes. Until about 25 years ago, private higher education in this country was largely white, upper middle class, sometimes middle class, and wealthy. But again, coming out of the 60s, private education really wanted to democratize its student body. Employers and communities were saying, we need all of our people educated. So as we brought in people who could not afford private education, we raised the cost. That's the number one driver. Public education, why have they raised tuition so much? That's a simpler answer, because states have cut back private higher education. If Bruce Benson, our friend, were here today, he would say that when he started at the University of Colorado, the support of the state of Colorado covered about 40% of his budget. Today it covers 7% of his budget. So there are reasons, but the fact is higher education has become increasingly expensive in this country. The value of higher education is still incredibly important. Parents still want their children to go through higher education. As citizens, we still want people to go through higher education. Just simple fact, the earnings potential. The college graduate earns 64% more than a high school graduate. And the college graduate has a 4 times approximately better chance of landing a high-paying job throughout their career. So just in sheer economic expense, as expensive as higher education is, it's actually still one of the best investments families can make, especially if they get financial aid or they are in a public institution. So that's just one, the finances. We are really going through a financial change of higher education and beginning to think differently about finances. The second is technology, and this is really equivalent to industrialization in the 1860s. It's changing everything. I don't have to explain this. You probably know it, or if you're like me, your children and grandchildren can explain it to you. It's changing how we learn, how we teach, how students socialize. It's impacting every aspect of campus. If you're like me, you're reading in the paper every day now the unrest on many, many college campuses. Nothing in Denver yet, let's knock on wood, but many college campuses are in a lot of unrest. Part of the issue is social media, something called Yik Yak, where students or anyone can do anonymous postings of the most vile kinds of things, and it hits the campus in a local area and causes upware. Technology has great uses. In a very short period of time, we will be able to analyze using very simple technology how you learn, how you learn, how you learn, and we will adapt our classes to how individuals learn. It will speed up your learning process tremendously. It has meant that all around the world, we need to travel still, but we can be in contact with faculty and students and corporations and Rotarians all around the world. Lots of good benefits, but it also has some negative implications that are affecting higher education very powerfully. 21st century students. So this is one of my areas of research and expertise. The students today are more different than they were 10 years ago, 10 years previous, 10 years before that. Lots of research indicates that what we call the millennials, we read a lot about millennials, they love Denver, are very different. They have become digital natives. They've grown up post 9/11, post 2008 recession. They want different things in life than we have seen the last 30 or 40 years. Here are some facts we know about them. Lots of research. They are less resilient. There is an amazing amount of research that shows that the young people today are more anxious, are more fearful, find it harder to take tough knocks. What does that mean? That has meant at public and private institutions, the support we need to provide for mental health counseling and our concerns about wellness have skyrocketed. They need more navigational skills. This is a fascinating thing. I see it at every school I've been. It's somewhat different depending upon the student. So by navigational skills, I mean the ability to make choices of classes, the ability to make choices of roommates, the ability to decide whether or not I want to go take Ved's class and major in law, or I want to go study social work across the campus. Different reasons. About half of DU students are on full financial aid. About 86% of our students receive financial aid. 49% receive full financial aid. If you are first generation, or you're coming from a lower socioeconomic background, or you're coming from an underrepresented group, we know that these institutions are complex. Your parents can't coach you. Your aunt and uncle can't guide you. You literally don't know how to get on the highway to make the decisions. That's one half of our students. The other half of our students, some of them are also on financial aid, but they're coming from families whose parents and grandparents probably went to college. They also struggle to make navigational choices, and that's because many of them have had what I call Velcro parents. We used to call them helicopter parents. This is the era of students in our colleges and in our grad schools now whose parents have chosen their play dates. They've never been out to play pickup ball in the sand lot across the street. They've not made their choices. They are literally on their iPhones to their mothers 5-6 times a day. Their fathers call me and want me to take care of this or that problem with a roommate. Can you imagine calling the president of a university? Can you imagine your parent calling the president of a university? So these students too, great kids, but they haven't learned to make choices for themselves, and it makes them very, very anxious. But they're great things. This is the most innovative, creative generation we've seen. They love creativity. They are right brain oriented as well as left brain oriented. They are civically engaged. They will become the future Rotarians. I have the pleasure of working with these students, and it is amazing to me. About 85% of our undergrads at any given time are involved in some community service project in the Denver area. We didn't hear those statistics in the 80s and the 90s. These kids, very suspicious of the federal government, don't know how many of them will vote in the election. But hands-on, local communities, building changing, they're all in. And lifestyle changes. So this is fascinating. These students, these are not interested, the millennials, in going to Wall Street. When I was at Colgate 15, 20 years ago, many of our students, they wanted to go to Wall Street. They wanted to work 80, 90, 100 hours a week and retire by the time they were 45 or 50. That's what their fathers have done. The kids today at a Colgate or a DU or a UC Boulder, they want a balanced life. That's why Denver is so popular. They want to be able to ski. They want to be able to hike. They want time for their friends. They want not work-life balance, but really work-life blend. Fascinating generation. Social context, demographics, I don't need to tell anyone who lives in this beautiful city of Denver that we are becoming a much more racially and ethnically diverse country. This is going to change higher education tremendously. We are seeing some of the angst of that change around the country right now. And finally, compliance and regulation. So this is interesting. I know there are a number of lawyers in the room and a number of DU lawyers in the room. So higher education tracks very closely to what the law says we have to do. Some of you went to college in locus parentis. I was kind of at the end of in locus parentis. Then some of you went to college in the years after that, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And in those years, the courts basically, it was called the bystander era, they basically said, look, you're not kids and the college isn't your mom and dad. You really are adults. And if you get in trouble, the court system will solve it. And they said to higher ed, they're adults. Stay out of their dorm rooms, stay out of their Greek life houses, stay out of what the athletic teams do when they're not out on the court. They're adults. Let them self-regulate. Now, starting in about the mid-90s, the courts have entered what we are calling the duty era, and it is the duty of the university to provide a safe environment. Title IX, some forms of campus safety acts, a lot of the alcohol and drug prevention requirements, and now I expect in the next 2 years we're going to see from the federal government a lot about creating racially safe environments on our campus. This is just the ruling of the courts and the law. I think that's a reflection of where society is changing, but it has made us all of a sudden change dramatically how we think about what our responsibility is and what we can and can't do with our students. Much of this I'm actually quite in favor of. I think we had kind of gone to the extreme about treating 19-year-olds as if they were 40-year-olds. On the other hand, I think it's very hard while you're in that transition to make a safer environment. So these are just some of the many, many changes. Now let me talk a little bit about DU for those of you who don't know much about DU, I'm going to actually focus on the undergraduate program, but you probably know that of our 12,000 students, a little over half are graduate students. We have a marvelous law school that's ranked in the top 4 most innovative law schools in America to educate practice-ready lawyers. Our social work school is in the top 11%, and Corbell, our international school, is one of the top 10 schools in the world. But I want to focus on the undergraduate schools. Undergraduate program, it's a little bit easier to talk about that as a whole. So DU is a very hot school for undergraduates right now. Our applications, we had over 15,000 applications for about 1,400 seats. So it's a very popular school. Why is that? We know that students like this size school right now. Small schools seem too small. Big state schools for many millennials seem too large. They like this school and they like the blend of our professional schools and our undergraduate schools. DU's undergraduate program is very, very focused on the student-faculty experience. We just went through a tremendous strategic planning process. We talked to about 3,000 people in all, and about half of those were students or alums. Everyone, when we asked what should never change at DU, said the faculty-student relationship. And that's true for our graduate school, and I have met many VED students who tell me about the relationship they have with you. So it's a very intensive experience. Research shows the most important element in college and in graduate school is a relationship with a faculty member. So, again, a very low ratio for students to faculty. We, as I mentioned earlier, provide immense amounts of financial aid. The average net tuition at DU is about $19,500. The sticker price is $55,000. The net price, what people actually pay, is a little less than $20,000. That shows you how much financial aid we're giving. About $136 million last year for our undergraduates in financial aid. 84% of the students last year received some financial aid. This year, it's like 86%. So experience beyond the classroom, just a couple of things about the DU experience. Like law school and the business school, even our undergraduate school, we try to prepare people for jobs. We're a school that is liberal arts, but believes that you can use the liberal arts to make people practice ready for jobs. You do that in one way by internships. 67% of our undergrads enjoy internships. A little over 80% of our graduate students. We hope to make that 100% over the next 10 years. And last year, we were ranked #1 in the country for the number of students we sent abroad internationally. We're very proud of this. This was a program that Dan Ritchie and VED started some years ago called the Charrington Scholars Program. And I take great pleasure calling my friends at schools like Yale and Emory and saying, come on, you guys. If we can send 70% of our students abroad, you can step up to the plate. Extremely important. The study abroad experience is generally transformative for students. The other thing I want to say about the DU experience is, we have a beautiful campus. If you haven't been to DU, call VED or me and come and see our campus. Again, this is a campus I like to say that Dan Ritchie built. Dan became chancellor about 25 years ago. The campus was in terrible physical shape, and he literally transformed DU by building a campus. He built it for the students, to educate the students, and it has been a foundation for all of our momentum since then. Over 80% of the campus has been built or rebuilt since 1994. I invite you to use our campus. It's one of my goals that now we have this beautiful campus, that it becomes like a Washington Park or a Union Station for Denver, and everyone can come and use these facilities. The city of Denver is a huge attractor. 70% of our undergrads come from out of state. 70% of our undergrads stay in Denver when they graduate. I think about 20% of the other remaining 30% want to get back as fast as they can. So we're a huge importer of talent, but we also take very seriously our responsibility. Of the 30% in-state students that come to DU, many of those are local public high school students that we will have been working with since they were in junior high. 97% of our students have jobs 6 months after graduation or are in another form, law school or professional school. This is an enormously high statistic. This is one of the things that private education is really distinguished for. We get our kids through in 4 years and we get them jobs. And for parents and for students, that's extremely important. So, as I mentioned, we have been in a process of really imagining forward all these changes in higher education, this incredible opportunity of being in Denver, of having a campus that's so beautiful and so new. How can we be a leader? How can we prepare citizens for Colorado? How can we help change how we think about higher education in this country? So about a year ago, we set out to begin a process of strategic planning. And like I said, we literally talked to 3,000 people. That's really an amazing number. So this is my 5th strategic plan in a university. I have never had that kind of response. People at DU and our alums and our civic leaders, because we went out and talked to a lot of people in Denver, were eager to talk about how we could move DU forward, given the strength of its platform, given the pressures of the issues. So we have 3 fundamental strategies I want to tell you about. First of all, we are rethinking the student experience. The traditional student experience is something like this. Come in, you're kind of a blank slate. Maybe you did pretty good in high school. We have Sage on the stage. That's me, the professor. I give you all my knowledge. You master what I think is important, and then we give you a degree. We don't need to do that anymore. The students can find the information. They have to learn to use it. So now we're thinking about teaching them to navigate, to learn how to how to use the information. We know that the millennials who graduate from college today, will on average change jobs every 2.2 years. Half of the knowledge that is available to them now in careers will change dramatically in the first 5 years of their professional lives. When you're dealing with those kind of statistics, you just no longer think about mastery and Sage on the stage. You have to think about how we teach people to think critically, learn information, work in teams, adapt, innovate, and create. We're going to focus a lot on who students are in terms of their emotional intelligence, their character. So I love the Martin Luther King quote, their ability to collaborate, their ability to work in diverse teams. When we went out and talked to about 150 employers, and we researched every survey we could on employers, we found out that employers were asking for critical thinking, communication skills, and then emotional intelligence, the ability to innovate, the ability to collaborate, and the ability to work in diverse teams. So that is our goal with our students. Second, we've been a group of silos. We're going to create an interstate highway system. We're going to use our knowledge to address big problems and big issues. And finally, since I can tell my time's up, Andre's very effective. Okay. So finally, our third goal, and this is the one I just wanted to really underscore with you, is we want to be a better partner in Denver. All of our schools have programs. The law school has a phenomenal legal clinic. The social work school reaches out to lots of underprivileged communities. But we know that the best faculty and the best students will come to DU today if we have programs out in Denver. We believe this city has tremendous opportunity. There are big problems, as you know. But Denver is really poised to be a new global city in the United States. And DU is very serious about our role and our responsibility and our partnership. We're starting a new entrepreneurship center for innovation and technology that will partner with industry. We're going to do the Rocky Mountain Challenges that will dedicate 10 to 20% of our courses each year to a big issue in Denver to provide the intellectual capital to partner with the city. And we want every student on an internship. We also want to make sure that every student is engaged in helping underprivileged and poor communities in this city. So it's an exciting time at DU, and I'll stop there for questions.
Right, we have time for 2 questions.
Yes.
I have one over here. How do you promote academic excellence while still promoting diversity?
Today, I think that, today I think diversity is often seen at the heart of academic excellence. It was certainly at one point understood as a kind of add-on, as a kind of civic good that you did it to serve communities. So let me give you just one statistic. Today, we have about 22% of our students are underrepresented minorities. Most of those are actually from the Colorado area. Of that group, 4% are African American students. That group has the highest graduation rate at DU for the undergraduates. Many of them are on financial aid, but they come in eager, hungry, willing to work. They become some of our most superb students. So I think one of the things that really is changing, because of our ability, again, to address specific needs of students and specific support for students, we're seeing some of the diversity students just phenomenal. Much of our campus leadership right now is Latina and Latino in the city. So I think we've really moved past that era where we saw diversity on one side and excellence on another. And we're seeing those be together, just like employers are saying. I'm going to tell one quick story. Enterprise, the car rental company, Andy Taylor is a graduate, proudly I say, of DU. And when I first called him, I said, Mr. Taylor, what do you think I should do as chancellor? And he said, well, first of all, let me tell you, I'm a Republican. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, what? He's telling me to vote or what? And he said, no, I tell you that because what I'm going to say is going to surprise you. And I said, okay. And he said, what I need is those bright DU kids who can work in a global context, who can work with diverse teams, because everybody who walks in my business has to be able to work with diversity. So I think we're trying to parallel what our employers are telling us. Yes?
Could you just, on here, could you just briefly break down the gap between that 50 and the 20? How much is external, how much is internal? Is it need or merit-based?
Okay, so let me say it this way. 86% of our students are on financial aid, receive some kind of financial aid. And I'm talking about undergraduates now. It's different when you look at each graduate school. So 86%, approximately 50% are on need-based aid. So for those students who are receiving aid because their families qualify for need, much of it is full need, but some of it may be a middle-class kid who's got 2 brothers and sisters in school, and maybe they're getting $10,000. Of the 35% who are not receiving need-based aid, they are receiving what's called merit aid. And that may be because they're lacrosse players or hockey players, so a lot of our athletes receive some kind of merit aid. It may be because they're musicians or theater or artists. It may be because they're on the debate team, and we believe there's a public good in serving the debate team. So that's how we break it down. And that's pretty standard for our peers. You wouldn't see much different. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And again, come and visit, please.
Chancellor Chop, don't go too far. Thank you very much for speaking here today. We have made a donation on your behalf to the Polio Fund to vaccinate up to 150 children. There's a little crocus here, which is our symbol for the polio eradication, and I hope you will wear it with pride.
I will. That's very meaningful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Wow, thank you, Program Committee. Another, I think, smashing success, having a relevant and timely message to us. Remember, next week is the State of the State. It's going to be at the Hyatt at the Tech Center. Not here. You have to make a reservation. The following week is a holiday party lunch. It's here. You do need a reservation. We just come out of the Thanksgiving holiday, getting ready for our Christian holidays. And it is important that we realize that it's a time of violence where one man and a gun can capture the world headlines. In Rotary, with our efforts of better world understanding, in our four-way test where we say we want to build goodwill and better understanding, I hope that this week you keep goodwill and better understanding in your mind as we have a tall, tall order ahead of us in getting peace to this world. Thank you. We're adjourned.